Have you ever wondered how far someone could go when pushed to the brink? And how a single act of courage could change the course of fate? This story takes us deep into the heart of betrayal, redemption, and the unyielding power of doing what is right. Set in the bustling streets of Los Angeles and the sprawling estates of the elite. This is a tale of contrasts, between wealth and poverty, ambition and greed, courage and despair. Our journey follows Samantha, a resourceful homeless girl, who stumbles upon a plot that could cost the life of Marcus Hayes, a powerful and wealthy CEO. What unfolds is a gripping story of survival, moral dilemmas, and the unexpected bonds that can form in the most unlikely circumstances. Let us take you into the first chapter of this enthralling narrative. The night was crisp, and the city of Los Angeles sparkled with lights like a galaxy on Earth. Samantha leaned against a brick wall in a narrow alley, her thin jacket offering little protection against the chill. The faint hum of traffic and the occasional chatter of passersby were her only companions. She tugged her knit cap lower over her ears, her backpack resting against her side, holding all her worldly possessions. Tonight wasn't unusual. Samantha's life had been a string of cold nights and empty days since she'd found herself on the streets. What was unusual, however, was the conversation she overheard as she tucked herself between two dumpsters to escape the wind. "Are you sure you can make it look like an accident?" a man's voice hissed. It was low, urgent, and dangerous. Samantha froze, her breath caught in her throat. Peering cautiously through a small gap, she saw two men, one in a sharp suit, the other in greasy overalls, standing a few feet away. "Listen, Mr. Hayes Jr., tampering with a jet's navigation system isn't exactly like fixing a car. It's risky," the man in overalls replied. Samantha's blood ran cold as the man in the suit, who she now recognized as Theo Hayes, the estranged son of the city's most prominent billionaire, Marcus Hayes, spoke again. "I don't care. My father boards his jet tomorrow night. Make sure it's the last flight he ever takes. Just do your job, and you'll get your money." Samantha clapped a hand over her mouth to stifle a gasp. Her heart pounded as she realized the gravity of what she'd just heard. Marcus Hayes was a household name, known for his sprawling tech empire and philanthropic ventures. He was set to attend a global summit in New York tomorrow. But his son, Theo, had other plans. As the two men finished their conversation and walked off, Samantha sat trembling in her hiding spot. Every fiber of her being told her to stay silent, to mind her own business. What could she, a homeless girl with no resources, possibly do to stop such a dangerous plot? But deep down, Samantha knew she couldn't let it go. If she didn't act, an innocent man would die. Samantha's fingers trembled as she dug through her backpack for her battered smartphone. The screen was cracked, the battery barely holding a charge. But it still worked. She had to figure out a way to warn Marcus Hayes, and fast. Samantha's journey to save a life was about to begin. The dim glow of Samantha's phone screen illuminated her determined face as she paced the edge of a bus station. Her heart pounded with the weight of the decision she had made. She was going to stop Theo Hayes. But how? She was just a homeless girl with no money, no connections, and no idea how to get close to someone like Marcus Hayes. Her fingers danced nervously over the screen as she searched for Marcus's company details. Hayes Technologies was based in a towering skyscraper in downtown Los Angeles. An untouchable fortress for someone like her. She scrolled past press releases and photos of Marcus attending charity galas, all while the cold reality of her situation sank in. Even if she made it to his building, what could she say to make anyone believe her? Samantha glanced at the clock on her phone, 11:45 p.m. The jet was set to depart tomorrow evening. She had less than 24 hours to stop the unthinkable. By dawn, Samantha was moving through the crowded streets of Los Angeles. Clutching her fraying backpack, the early morning air was alive with the sounds of commuters and street vendors. But Samantha had one goal in mind: reach Marcus Hayes before Theo's plan could unfold. Her destination was Hayes Tower, a sleek, glass-clad skyscraper that seemed to pierce the clouds. She reached the tower's imposing front doors. Guarded by polished metal detectors and uniformed security personnel, Samantha hesitated, her feet rooted to the spot. She glanced down at her reflection in the polished glass doors, a thin, disheveled girl wearing second-hand clothes. The guards would never let her past the lobby. Summoning her courage, she approached the front desk. "I need to see Mr. Hayes," she said, her voice trembling but steady. The receptionist, a sharp-eyed woman in a tailored suit, barely glanced up. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it's urgent. His life is in danger," Samantha said, her words tumbling out in a desperate rush. The receptionist's face remained impassive. "I'm sorry, but Mr. Hayes doesn't take walk-ins. If you'd like to leave a message." "No," Samantha's voice rose, drawing the attention of a nearby guard. "You don't understand. Someone's trying to kill him. His son, Theo, he's sabotaging his jet." The guard approached, his hand resting on his radio. "Mom, I'm going to need you to calm down. I'm telling the truth," Samantha pleaded. "If you don't let me see him, he's going to die." Before the guard could respond, a man in a tailored suit stepped out of the elevator behind them. His silver hair and commanding presence made him instantly recognizable. It was Marcus Hayes. Samantha's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected to see him here. "Now, what's going on here?" Marcus asked, his sharp eyes scanning the scene. Samantha seized the moment. She darted past the guard and threw herself in front of Marcus, her hands outstretched. "Mr. Hayes, please, you have to listen to me. Your jet has been sabotaged. Your son, he's planning to kill you." Marcus's expression darkened. "What did you say?" "Your son hired a mechanic to tamper with your plane," Samantha said, her voice cracking with urgency. "I heard him last night in an alley. He said it had to look like an accident." Marcus stared at her, his face a mask of skepticism. "Who are you?" "Samantha," she said, her voice trembling. "I live on the streets. But I swear I'm telling the truth. You're in danger." Before Marcus could respond, a uniformed assistant approached. "Sir, you have a meeting in 10 minutes." Marcus held up a hand. Silencing her, his piercing gaze remained fixed on Samantha. "If what you're saying is true, how do you know Theo was involved?" "I heard him," Samantha exclaimed. "He said your name, your flight schedule. He even mentioned a mechanic named Randy." Marcus's face hardened at the mention of Randy. He glanced at his assistant. "Cancel the meeting and get my security team now." Minutes later, Marcus and Samantha stood in a private conference room with Marcus's head of security, a stern man named Grant. "Run a full inspection of the jet," Marcus ordered. "Check everything, fuel lines, navigation, wiring." Grant nodded, speaking into his radio. "I'll dispatch a team immediately." Samantha sat silently in a corner, her fingers gripping the edge of her chair. She could feel Marcus's eyes on her, analyzing her every move. "If this is a lie," he said, his voice low and dangerous, "you'll regret wasting my time. I swear it's the truth," Samantha said, her voice steady despite the fear tightening her chest. An hour later, Grant returned, his face grim. "Sir, we found something. The navigation system was tampered with. Someone rigged it to fail mid-flight." Marcus's expression darkened. "Randy," he muttered under his breath. "What do we do now?" Samantha asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus turned to her, a flicker of something softer in his eyes. "You've done more than enough, Samantha. Now it's my turn." As the day stretched on, Marcus worked to unravel Theo's plot. His team traced the payments to Randy, confirming Samantha's story. Meanwhile, Samantha stayed in the shadows, unsure of her place in this high-stakes drama. She'd done what she could, but the tension in the air was suffocating. By nightfall, Marcus had set a trap. Theo, unaware that his plan had been discovered, arrived at the Hayes family estate, confident that his scheme was in motion. But when he walked into Marcus's study, he found his father waiting, flanked by security. "What's this?" Theo asked, feigning innocence. "You tell me," Marcus said, his voice icy. "I know about the jet." "Theo, I know what you plan to do." Theo's face twisted with anger. "You're accusing me, your own son." "I have proof," Marcus said, "and I have one question for you." "Why?" Theo's facade crumbled. "Because you never cared about me," he shouted. "It was always the company, the legacy. I was nothing to you." Marcus's jaw tightened. "And you think that justifies murder?" The room fell silent, the weight of Theo's betrayal hanging heavy in the air. Samantha watched from the doorway, her heart aching for the family torn apart before her eyes. The room was heavy with silence, punctuated only by the steady ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Marcus Hayes stood firm, his gaze piercing through Theo like a blade. Samantha lingered in the doorway, her pulse quickening as she watched the confrontation unfold. She had never seen such raw emotion, anger, betrayal, and heartbreak, all colliding in one place. Theo's initial defiance began to falter under the weight of his father's unrelenting stare. He took a step back, his bravado crumbling. "You've always seen me as a failure," Theo said, his voice shaking. "Nothing I ever did was good enough for you. And this is how you choose to prove yourself," Marcus thundered, slamming his hand on the desk. "By trying to take my life. By destroying everything I've built. Everything I trusted you to carry on." Theo clenched his fists, his face twisting with a mixture of rage and desperation. "You don't understand," he hissed. "You left me no choice. You made me feel like an outsider in my own family." "No, Theo," Marcus said, his voice lower but no less resolute. "You had choices, every step of the way. You had choices. And this is what you chose: betrayal and murder." The tension in the room was unbearable. Samantha shifted uneasily in the doorway, feeling like an intruder in this deeply personal clash. But she knew she couldn't leave. She had been the catalyst for this moment, and she had to see it through. Suddenly, Theo's demeanor changed. His shoulders slumped, and his eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal. "You don't have any proof," he said weakly, though his voice lacked conviction. "It's your word against mine." Marcus gave a bitter laugh and motioned to Grant, the head of security. Grant stepped forward, holding a folder thick with evidence. "We traced the payments to Randy," Grant said coldly. "We have the tampered navigation system from the jet. And we have Samantha's testimony, which aligns perfectly with what we found." Theo's face went pale, and he staggered back a step. You can't do this. I'm your son." Marcus's expression darkened, and for a moment, the pain in his eyes eclipsed his anger. "You're my son," he said, his voice breaking slightly, "and that makes this even harder. But I can't protect you from the consequences of what you've done." As Marcus spoke, Samantha noticed movement out of the corner of her eye. Theo's hand darted toward a heavy glass paperweight on the desk. Before she could shout a warning, Theo lunged forward, swinging the paperweight at Marcus with a wild, desperate cry. Marcus dodged just in time, the paperweight crashing into a lamp instead. Grant and the security team sprang into action, wrestling Theo to the ground. Theo struggled violently, screaming incoherent accusations and pleas. But the guards subdued him, pinning his arms behind his back. Samantha felt her breath catch in her throat. The scene was chaotic, and for a moment, she feared Theo might actually harm someone, or himself. But as the guards secured his hands with zip ties, Theo finally went limp, his body sagging under the weight of his defeat. The room fell silent again, except for Theo's ragged breathing. Marcus stood over his son, his face a mask of anguish. "Why, Theo?" he whispered. "Why did it have to come to this?" Theo didn't answer. His head hung low, his expression a mixture of shame and defiance. Marcus turned away, running a hand through his hair as he tried to compose himself. He looked at Samantha, who had stepped cautiously into the room. "Thank you," he said softly, "for your courage, for your integrity. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be standing here right now." Samantha nodded, her voice catching as she said, I couldn't let it happen. I'm sorry it turned out like this." Minutes later, the police arrived. Theo was escorted out of the house in handcuffs, his head bowed, as the officers led him to the waiting patrol car. He cast one last glance at Marcus. "You'll regret this," Theo said, his voice bitter but laced with desperation. "You'll regret turning your back on me." Marcus didn't reply. He stood in the doorway, watching as the patrol car disappeared down the driveway. His expression was unreadable, but Samantha could see the pain etched into his features. As the evening wore on, the mansion grew quiet again. Marcus and Samantha sat in the living room, the crackling fire the only sound between them. Marcus stared into the flames, his thoughts far away. "You did the right thing," Samantha said softly, breaking the silence. "It wasn't easy, but you stopped something terrible from happening." Marcus sighed deeply. "I know," he said, "but it doesn't make it any less painful. He's my son, Samantha. No father wants to see his child walk down this path." Samantha hesitated, then said, "Maybe this is the wake-up call he needs. Maybe he can still change." Marcus looked at her, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "I want to believe that," he said. "I have to believe that." The days that followed were a whirlwind of media coverage and legal proceedings. Marcus ensured that Theo would receive a fair trial, but he made it clear he wouldn't interfere with the justice system. Randy, the mechanic, was also arrested, and both men faced charges of conspiracy and attempted murder. As for Samantha, her life changed in ways she could never have imagined. Marcus offered her a place to stay at the mansion, a chance to rebuild her life. She accepted, though it took her time to adjust to the sudden stability and comfort. "You've shown more courage and integrity than most people I've ever met," Marcus told her one evening. "You deserve a chance to make something of your life, and I want to help you do that." Samantha smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you," she said, "for believing in me." Though the scars of Theo's betrayal remained, the mansion began to feel less empty. Samantha brought a sense of warmth and hope that had been missing for years. And as she and Marcus built a tentative new family, they both found a renewed sense of purpose. For Marcus, it was a chance to reflect on his role as a father and to hope for reconciliation with Theo someday. For Samantha, It was an opportunity to leave her past behind and step into a future filled with possibilities. And so, amid the ruins of betrayal and the weight of loss, they found something unexpected, a second chance. A chance to heal, to grow, and to rediscover the power of family and trust. As we reach the end of this powerful story, we're reminded of the profound truths it holds. It's a tale of courage, redemption, and the transformative power of doing the right thing, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Samantha's bravery teaches us that no matter where we come from or how little we have, our actions can make a difference. Marcus's journey shows us that even amidst betrayal, we can find hope and strive for forgiveness and change. For everyone watching, this story is more than just entertainment. It's a reminder to value the relationships in our lives, to nurture them with love and understanding. It encourages us to face our challenges with integrity and to never lose sight of the potential for growth and second chances. Most importantly, it calls on us to act with kindness and stand up for what is right, even in the face of adversity. In our modern world, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the fast pace of life and the obstacles we encounter. But let this story inspire us to focus on what truly matters: family, integrity, and the courage to make difficult but necessary decisions. Cherish relationships. Take the time to appreciate the people in your life. A simple gesture of kindness or a heartfelt conversation can go a long way. Do what's right, no matter how small your voice may feel. Standing up for what is right can have a ripple effect that changes lives. Embrace second chances, whether it's offering forgiveness or seeking it. Every step toward reconciliation is a step toward healing. Thank you for joining us on this emotional and thought-provoking journey. If you found this story inspiring, moving, or meaningful, we invite you to become part of our community. Subscribe to our channel to hear more incredible tales that uplift, entertain, and leave a lasting impact. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Thumbs up, like and share this video to spread its message to friends and family. Speech Balloon, tell us in the comments what part of this story touched your heart the most. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to sharing more amazing stories with you. Until next time, remember, every choice we make shapes the world we live in. Let's choose kindness, courage, and hope. See you in the next story. Red Heart.